On the computer. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. For anyone joining us on the replay, there are four of us, and we're going to start with just a gentle meditation, just to center us. And then Juan is going to talk to us about his experience. And we're going to talk mostly about child-led education or self-directed education. So thank you for being here. And yeah, I'm just gonna mute all for now, if that's okay. And I always think the best way to start an important conversation or even a joyful conversation is to ground and center. So if we can put our feet on the floor, uncross our arms, maybe lift our shoulders up and down, up and down. We can just take some long, slow, deep breaths. I can invite you to relax your eyes or even close them if you feel comfortable. We call our energy and attention to this room. We call our presence to the here and now. We allow ourselves to release all that isn't ours and all that no longer serves us. So we may be fully present for this moment. We may envision a waterfall of white light cleansing us, coming from above and cleansing our aura, our energy field, our chakras. As we can relax and feel full and present in this moment. Breathing in and out. 2 more times in and out. In and out. We can now just take a moment to wiggle our toes and fingers, inviting our presence back into the room, back into this meeting, this gathering of like-minded. We can open our eyes. Thank you. Okay, so welcome again. I'm going to unmute Juan and I to begin the conversation, and then we'll open it to other people's questions after. Sound good?
Great.
Okay. So thank you again for speaking with us and allowing me to record this and share this in the group. I guess maybe just so we have a little bit of background on you, I wonder what got you personally, so obviously you have children of your own. What got you interested in the self-directed or child-led education?
Well, I guess it was like it's a concept that I started hearing a long while ago, but kind of like thinking about it, I think it also reflects on my own childhood. You know, it's like as a child, like what you would have wanted. There is already, I think I had a strong feeling as a child that I would have wanted, and a different kind of education would have been more constructive. So that, putting that on the side, then as I started to learn about like other pedagogies and other ways to approach education, it really started to click, like as something that would be first way more respectful, and even like in many senses like that the child can learn more effectively. But I had like from, I think almost from the beginning, I had this sense, this kind of like metaphor that a child, that as a parent or as an educator, I felt that I am like a tourist guide. Okay, so there is this child that comes to this world, and they might not know how this world works, and they might want some guidance on how to get started in this world. So I can offer some support. Like if someone comes to my country and they want to learn about my country and how to get around and how to get started, I can offer that help, but it has to be in a very respectful way. It doesn't mean that I am superior to them, or that they are stupid, or that I need to tell them what they should do in my country. No, I am at their service. What do you want to do in my country? And I help you to get it done. So I always had this sort of like different kind of role and perspective on how to support someone else. So this naturally led to the whole idea of like child-led education and different dynamics in between adults and kids.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense, and I will share that. I think a lot of us that are in this style of education also felt as a child that this was what we would have wanted or would have helped us thrive. So I can relate to that personally. So thank you for sharing. And I guess, yeah, so tell us, I don't know if we want to start with where you are now, or your Auroville experience, wherever you feel is, that you're most excited about telling us about.
Okay, so I will tell you a little bit of like introduction to where I am now and where I have been and where I might be going. So at the moment, I'm a little bit of like a transitional period. I have been outside of Spain for nearly 15 years and exploring, living in India and other places, exploring education and also other personal interests. And now I'm here in Spain, and it's been a year. My daughter is going to a local, more or less like alternative school. And in the future, I would like to go back towards some sort of like maybe homeschooling or unschooling or some variety of the like. Before being here in Spain, I was in Auroville for 5 years. And before Auroville, I was running a school in Nepal. So that was also a very interesting experience because I created a different kind of educational system that it brought together a lot of the, like, we discussed before about Bashar or Abraham Hicks, a lot of these concepts into play. So yeah, but okay, with regards to Auroville, it's a big topic. Maybe I can give you a brief introduction to the place, a little bit like what is it about, and then what's going on in education over there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. And just so you know, I personally, I have read about the future school, which I thought was pretty exciting because, so my passion is the child-led education, but personally, I'm a meditation and mindfulness instructor. So when I looked into the future school and the style of, it seemed that it was based on a style of yoga, which is more like what I would call lifestyle yoga, rather than, in America, yoga is traditionally practiced as just the asanas, just the so that's kind of a little bit of my background, that it's kind of about a lifestyle of being connected to community, connected to the earth, connected to their inner self, their whatever you want to call it, their inner whatever, if they're saying God, or Bashar will say higher self, Abraham Hicks will say inner being. Maybe you could just say your true self or your inner self. So that's what I read, and I found that pretty exciting. So
Yeah, but it goes along these lines. Like it's very difficult to feel like faithful to what it is and to be able to explain it like properly. Like I'm just giving you a little bit like what I have understood and what I have like experienced. But like briefly, yes, you're right. Like there is behind the community, there is this idea called like integral yoga, where it's seen that every aspect in our life is something that can be transformed into let's say like in a spiritual experience and like a union with the divine or the inner self and the universe. So that's a little bit of like the pillars of like the background story behind it. So there is this idea of the integral yoga. Then behind the idea of Auroville was also the idea to create like a laboratory for experimentation on how to achieve human unity. That's kind of like one of the story behind it. Along with that, there were many areas that we needed to change. Like there's this idea of the economy and how we work and many things, but one of them was also education. So there was a lot of guidelines and expectations on like what could be experimented, what could be changed, so we can create like the good environment so that a new kind of human being could emerge. That was a little bit like the background ideal.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to practice, then there are different interpretations on how to do this, and also practical limitations, and also people coming, for example, to do something like a fully devoted child-led process. It requires for many people like to be able to be there with the child and facilitate, and a great amount of flexibility
Right.
that some parents they couldn't do, or they didn't maybe necessarily fully agree. So what happens in practice is that in Auroville there are many different kinds of schooling, from something that will look on one extreme quite similar to the normal educational system, with some like alternative touches and values put
Mm-hmm.
into the class, but similar curriculum and all that, to other like schools where it would be like very like it would be like a community of child-led um, parents and kids like projects.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there will be people doing homeschooling and unschooling in the community. This is
Interesting. When I had first read about it, I just assumed that the whole community had one school, which they called the Future School, and it was all run on integral yoga. But now I can see that there were a full, really, like for me here where I am in Massachusetts, I have the full range from what I would call traditional teacher-led. So the teacher is directing, all the way to the children are fully in charge, I guess you could say. So, wow, that's interesting. Okay, so where did you find yourself? Like, where was your passion? Where were you loving being? Like,
so I was in for the most part I was in there was one of these schools was more, it was called learning community,
mm-hmm,
where different parents and kids, they will together create a space where they will explore activities, and it was kind of like managed with the parents and the kids together. It was some sort of like democratic
okay,
school. There were some elements of like Montessori there, but the main idea was that the kids had a lot more voice in what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it, and the decisions were made like communally. We will have to reach consensus and dialogues. So it was I found myself somewhere along those lines, because while I think that something like homeschooling or unschooling, I think it's really great, but there is always this element of like the social life, social interaction. So I felt that if there is like a group of parents and kids who are together doing this sort of approach, then it can be quite rich, because I also don't have like all the skills that I would like to share with my kid, or and the richness that brings from the variety, basically.
yeah, that sounds great. I went from an organized school system. We went from a Montessori, a private school in the United States. Most of the Montessoris are private, which means pay.
Mhm.
So they're very, very costly. Well, I guess it depends on you. To some, it may not, but it's the in the United States, the traditional schools are free, right? It's all comes out of the taxes from where you live. But if you want an alternative, you're either doing it yourself and homeschool, which is what I transitioned to. But I was in a school system with, like you said, a rich community with teachers and parents from all over the world that were all bringing these different cultures, and it was quite beautiful. So to go from that to homeschooling, which there, you know, when in the US, when you decide to homeschool, you're really on your own when it comes to community, and you can choose your own curriculum. So it was, I think that's probably why I've been so thirsty for community. And that's probably a product of why this group came about, is when I started, I assumed that most homeschoolers were unschoolers, but what I realized is that a large percentage of the homeschoolers in the United States are really just doing school at home. So they're just doing a similar teacher-led style, but they just do it in the morning, and the child can learn in 2 hours, and then they play for the rest of the day, or, you know, they're outside or do so. I can see I can see the advantage to being in a community or a democratic school. So that's where you kind of thrived and expanded, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there is something that was quite interesting about the community, was that to a great extent, at least when it came to the ideals, like most people like really agreed that the community was, we should like manage the community in a way that was like, okay, kind of like child friendly, and that the community supports the growth and the learning and the experiences of kids. So as a result, there was a lot of collaboration, because it was Auroville is a very big community. There is, nobody really knows exactly, but it's something like 5,000 people, because there's a lot of volunteers and people coming in and out. So there are lots of little like small industries and services, and you know, everything you will have like in a small town. And having all of them cooperating with the schools was a great advantage, because we could do not only field trips, but there could be like apprenticeships being done, people coming to the schools and share the skills with the kids, uh, hundreds of workshops going on all the time for kids. So that was very, very rich, and a little bit as close as I could imagine as for an ideal environment to grow, or at least as an attempt.
I wonder, did your daughter enjoy the experience?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. In general, like kids, they love it. They love it.
So I would imagine, you know, getting, you know, however you're living, you know, getting out the door, out to school was easy. She was self-motivated and excited to get to school and learn, share.
When she was there, you mean? Yeah, for sure. Because the environment was, it was very loving. It was very positive. There was there were like several like principles on education that people kind of like agreed with. One of them was that you cannot like impose yourself on like on another soul. You know, you cannot like force another soul to learn something they don't want to learn without their consent or permission, you know, their own interest. So that was, for example, like a concept that was widely agreed. So it's very easy to go into a space where you know firsthand that people are going to really try to respect you, and nothing is going to be thrust on you. So that, for a start, it sets like a good ground, no?
Yeah,
And
that's great.
yeah, this is like a basic thing. So you know, you can go to a school and where there are people that, you know, they are bigger and older, and they have like these positions, you know, their parents, and if they want, you know, they can always find a way to push you around. But when you feel safe, you know that you're gonna be hurt, and like for real, you're gonna be hurt. And if there is something going on you don't like or you prefer, we're gonna sit down and we will explore. It doesn't mean that you're gonna do what you want and then impose yourself on us, but like we're really gonna find a consensus on like how we can get like both of our needs met.
Awesome. I love that. That's a similar format that I follow at home when my daughter wanted to homeschool, and I was interested too. But, you know, we talked about how she could help me as well with her being home all the time. You know, my free time, my work time really, you know, went down, which is okay. I can be flexible as a business owner, but we had I wanted to make sure as a parent, because I think you can go the other way where the parent has no respect or authority. So I wanted to be sure that we were balanced, that,
Yeah.
and we do this day to day too. If I say we need to get groceries and she says, but I want to go to the park. I said, well, okay, we can do both, but
Yeah.
some days if she says, well, I don't want to, it's a, what I love about the unschooling concept is that both parent and child are able to follow their passions. So if I say, I want to go to for a hike, and so we're both able to do more of the stuff we like, which is really beautiful to have balance and even harmony in a relationship. I feel like my relationship with my daughter is better than it really is the model of relationships that I would want to have with adults, where there's we're both respected and heard, and we're able to fulfill each other's needs.
Yeah. Same here. I agree with that.
Nice. So, I mean, that sounds like a great experience. I wonder what. So overall, the education in Auroville, you felt like super great, was awesome.
Yeah, it's yes, but at the same time, like there is this idea that when you follow your passion and your excitement and all these things, you're gonna also come across like the things that we have inside that are not really in alignment, no? Kind of like the gap between the ideal and the practice, and where we are at. So yes, I think like in general, yes, the experience is awesome, but it's an experience in progress, because as adults we are not like so let's say like even like balanced or healed or harmonized with ourselves. So there is like a growing together, and the more the adults, like, they become more conscious of more things, and they grow, then they can create like facilitate better spaces and interactions. So I don't want to paint the picture also that it's like a perfect place. It's really like a work in progress, and experimentation ground. So some things go well, some things no. Some things go well, but we don't know how to take them further, and there are conflicts. It's I mean, I guess it's like life.
That's what I was thinking. It's when, I think when you're in a system that has already been written and you're just following that. So traditional, that's how to do it A to Z. That's that package. And then you can go to the Montessori, and that is also very packaged. It's already set. The children are doing the same things, but when you go to a complete freedom environment, then there's you can I can see what you're saying, that it's a lot of experimental, and sometimes you can feel like, at least for me, I know I can feel like that was a big waste. Like, what are we even doing? Like, a lot of
Oh
things,
yeah. Oh yeah.
feel just like a complete waste of time. But now for us, since the virus, we have so much free time. My classes have been canceled, so we do have a lot of free time. So anyways, yeah. I can see how it's a work in progress. Can you see this question from Sandra?
uh, mm, Children have unlimited access to internet and channels such as YouTube and other platforms. um it's, I mean, I will not say like unlimited, like, but it's definitely, there is access to internet and resources online. Maybe it's not something that is not maybe so much, it will depend on the school, but it's not something that is given so much weight in the school, because I think they're probably generally like favoring more like and it will depend on the age obviously, but they're favoring more like activities, like with handcraft and activities in nature. The, but of course, at home, everybody has internet, and whoever feels that this is a good support, they go for it.
So would that be up to the parents? So while they're in freedom-based school, they if they wanted to just sit in a corner and play video games all day, could they?
Well,
HIV?
I
That's
guess
the American. I don't know. That's the way I think of it. Is
the thing is, like, there are many things that come a little bit before that. Like, before a child gets to a place that it decides to spend the day playing video games in a corner, probably that child has already had like difficulties in terms of like playing with other kids or doing activities with other kids. So if I haven't seen that. I have seen sometimes a kid like being on their own and playing or whatever, and maybe with a phone or something like that. But if you have the option to have so much fun with your friends, like building a treehouse or going surfing or doing whatever activity, mm, it's like if you can do things like that, like I think generally a child would prefer to do that than to be on their own, unless there are already some other previous problems in the dynamics, which we will try to address from there. If it happened that a child was like isolated all the time, then we'll try to get some. We'll kind of like sit down and see what's happening and discuss it and offer solutions. And there was this thing of like restorative circles, for example. I don't know if you've heard about this concept.
it sounds nice, but I'm not aware yet.
Okay, so it's the idea that when there are, it's like a sort of like protocol. So when there are interpersonal problems, it's kind of like a protocol to get the feelings out and to talk about them and to hear them and to reflect on them as a community, to offer solutions. So there has been lots of problems going on, and then as the problems appear, then we will find these practices that will help resolve them. And so, but it could happen, maybe next month or something, a kid goes that way. So we will try to like see what is the root of that. And even as adults, we will reflect why we don't like that, what's wrong with that, what is right about it. There will be a lot of the dialogue and reflection. And so that would be, for example, like an excellent like opportunity for exploration.
Awesome. That answers. Does that answer for you also, Sandra?
If I could just quickly add, I really liked what Juan you said, that the children have the opportunity to mingle with other children, build things in, whether it's in the woods or in the ocean, have fun. I think the ideology of self-directed education is very close to a lot of people's hearts, but in the United States, I don't think we have the appropriate setting where kids have those choices and they're limited to the choices that they have. And they're often drawn to other things that we don't necessarily, that we ourselves are moving from into something better. So to give an actual example, I have a 6-year-old often exploring on YouTube what I would consider as junk. And that is her excitement, that is her passion. So it's hard for me to watch do that without interfering, at the same time not being able to offer for her the choices and opportunities that kids would have had in your village. So that was my
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that was my concern. I don't think our society in the United States, in most of the parts of the United States, has given the kids the opportunities to do in order to implement self-directed education effectively enough.
Yeah. So I think that's why the idea came also about that if we wanted to educate children differently or whatever, we needed to create also like a different environment. And even the parents, with there is so many elements to like to that. Like if parents, for example, they are overworked, it's very difficult also to be there with a child and to offer them exciting activities and to listen to their interest and develop it. So of course we are in a very in practically in the States and most places in the world, we have like so much limitation that it's very difficult to follow this interest, and sometimes what they naturally would love to do they cannot do,
Right.
or we don't know how to facilitate. So then we start to like find alternatives, and if it gets to a point where maybe it's a bit blocked, then yes, maybe you will try to like just read a book or watch a movie and fly. So I totally understand. And over there is a bit of it's not so like idealistic as I may paint it. It's like a hybrid system in between there are it's the same planet. It's the same planet. People, need to work, and the same problems, same dangers as everywhere, but there is like a community spirit to try to make a difference. So some things can be sometimes the same, but people try to really offer a lot of opportunities for kids to do exciting things, to create. In general, there was a bit of like a greater attitude. If a kid says, "Oh, I want to learn something. I would love to be this. I want to be a vet," then there will be someone who says, like, "Okay, come here. I know this person. He has horses. He's a vet. Come, we will show you how it is." And there was a bit of a willingness to try to make it different, but yes, it's super hard.
Thank you. It's a nice question from Jocelyn, what a typical day is like in Auroville for you and your family.
Okay, so it depends a lot for everyone, but so normally I mean, first of all, there's no typical day. Like there was a lot of like, every day was a little bit of like an adventure. There was many things going on. And even the timetables in the school were sometimes different because there was all these offerings of activities that they will come. So for example, like, a Tuesday, they will be going swimming in like at 7 in the morning, and then afterwards they will go to the base camp. Some days now. So okay, the timetable was also different. Then for example, like going into the school, like they had a lot of flexibility also, like choosing the timetables and what activities they did and not. Normally they would have like some hours in the morning where it would be like they would be going through kind of like general academic base, like skills like writing or reading and some things like that. And then they will have like project times, mostly like afternoons. So there will be different activities offered, like crafts or workshops or on circus or surf or gymnastics or ballet or whatever. And then they will just like choose what they do. And then another thing is like something that was a bit remarkable in Auroville was that it's been such a small place with so many like-minded people. And then it was very easy to kind of like raise kids together. There was a bit of a sense of a tribe. So even after school, mostly after school, most or many afternoons, they will be having like play dates. Like parents will get together, the kids will play. We will do things together as groups. So there was like a very rich social life as well, which also for parents gave us a lot of like a bit of like time, either time off, and also sometimes time to be with like other kids. So you have like your kid at home and 3 other kids, and maybe I'm going to the pool or somewhere and I take them with me. But this was like something quite often, at least in my circle.
That sounds great.
A lot of like co-parenting. And something interesting was that also the parents were from very different nationalities. So somebody would be from Israel, from Russia, from Germany, from Spain, Korea. So that also gave a lot of like richness to their interest and the activities that they will do and all that.
Awesome. I guess just to kind of wrap up that piece, your Auroville experience. So obviously you left, and so your home country is Spain, and you went back to your home country. I guess if you could just share like what your top kind of learning experiences were, and now that you're, I know you said you're working on do you currently have a job in education? Is that your background, or it's just a passion, or?
Well, at this moment how to say, like I'm not in this moment I'm not working in education. I have like worked in education,
Okay.
But I am also working with like some educational networks and making videos, exploring different topics with them at the moment. So yes, I have always been interested in like alternative pedagogies and new systems of education, and whenever I would participate. And now I'm beginning to make videos to share some of these experiences. So I always have a little bit of like something going on there.
Great. So maybe if you could so maybe why you decided to leave Auroville, if you're comfortable, just being in general.
Well, it's not really like I decided to leave. Like I had to come to Spain to do like paperwork and many things. It's still a possibility that I might go back to Auroville. It's not like something close. So it's more like I have like a lot of like family things to sort out here at the moment.
Okay.
I decided to come back to Spain. Also, to something that I found quite important was that being in Auroville, I came also confronted with how much cultural baggage I carry. Because when you're in a room with people, I mean, you know this in the States maybe more, but when you're in a room with people who think very similar to you or were from the same cultural background, you don't see often what is the baggage that you carry. So being in like such an international community, I got to a point where I saw that like I really needed to like work on like healing my relationship with my family, with my culture, and I let go a lot of these things or sort them out. That was another reason to. There were many reasons, but like that was one of the reasons to come here.
Nice. So, if anyone has any other questions as we're coming to like the last 15 minutes, please, you can type them in or unmute however you want. But now the exciting is, so what are you doing now? I know you're recording videos, and I have to figure out a way, the group, the self-directed group that we're all in, and thank you for joining and being there, was really just following my passion. Really, it was very kind of textbook, like what Bashar says about the formula. It was just, I was excited. I shared some information. And because, like I said, because we've been homeschooling, and I went from a big, beautiful community to it just really being two of us. I'm a single parent, and I was like, whoa. And then when I started to make friends with some of the homeschoolers, I realized most of them were just doing school at home. And I was like, oh, where are these self-directed people? So I think all of the lows give us, kind of, for me, having that low of feeling kind of alone as an educator, it got me so interested to share in other places. So that's really a result of the group, was just to connect like-minded educators. And I also just wanted to share that so many different styles are doing self-directed. I didn't even know some of the names. I didn't know democratic, which is used more of an international term. I knew just a couple of the US terms. So when I took a step back and I started to realize, hey, people are doing this all over the world. They're just calling it different things. So I got even more excited. So I'm excited to talk about you and really, what's next for you, Juan, with this style and your passion.
So what next? It's still it's growing, like for sure. Like I would love to I'm kind of like looking and creating opportunities to be part of like some sort of like community of like learning community, something like what I was before in Auroville. I don't know the location yet. I might come back there, or maybe here in Spain or in another country. But definitely, I feel that as many opportunities as we can offer to the child to follow their excitement and act, and to have the support to do that, and to explore with other kids together, something along these lines, it would be great.
Awesome. And how about the quantum education that you just mentioned briefly in the post? That's what you're doing now. You're recording videos. Is that something public, or is it private? Is it something you could share, or
Yeah, sure.
do you have like a YouTube channel, or what? Or are you just
No,
internally creating right now?
Okay, so there is like a network that it's called Pedagogy 3000, and they have like collected information, and it's like a resource of educators and teachers and schools that are like working for like to create like a new kind of education for, let's say, almost like for a new civilization, you know, like a go to the next level, and collect and putting together researchers and the latest discoveries and practices. So there is that network, and I'm putting the videos in their network. Now the idea of the quantum education, just super briefly, is that when we take into consideration all the recent discoveries in physics, in biology, in the brain, and everything, like we are coming to see that the brain and the human being, it works in a very different way that we used to think, and we have far greater capabilities of learning and interacting with other people and with reality. There is so much that we didn't know. So basically the educational system, it's like so limited to a paradigm of of how the brain and the body work that was super limited. And it's about time to begin to like evolve education into something that takes into consideration much more our interconnectedness, our capabilities, and other things that is a bit, I don't want to go too much now, but so the quantum education is a little bit like that. I'm beginning to explore different concepts like that we have heard with Bashar and other things, but more into the field of, it's like opening little possibilities. Could that mean in education, in the way, in the relationship between parent and kids, or educators and kids? There is so much that we can evolve and so much we can change. So I'm beginning to open doors for that. I don't know if it makes sense because it's a bit
Yeah.
abstract, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that sounds great. I can understand that, traditional education is very, I mean, it's almost like 2D, like
yeah,
two-dimensional.
yeah.
But when you have a spiritual parents who are meditating, doing yoga, parents who see their child as a spiritual being, you have conscious parents. There's groups of people all over the world that are saying, wait a minute, they have so much to offer. We have to nurture a safe, fun environment. So these children that are experiencing this type of school system they're going to be so different. They're going to elevate the world to levels you can only imagine. So I think us as the maybe somewhat, I mean, I know that at least in Massachusetts, the big school here is the Sudbury School, if
Mhm.
anyone has heard of that format. And I think it's like 50 years old, and they have been letting children lead for 50 years, and they can show that the children are educated, they get into college, and they're doing amazing things. Um, so as more parents and educators are catching on to this newer way, I think that to me, I just see the future is so bright because I can see these children who are excited and feel safe, and they're not acting out like I acted out. I was so controlled that for me, being in a very controlled situation made me rebellious, which is okay. I mean, it was
Yeah.
fun, but it's a different, I spent so much time just fighting, for my freedom, I guess, that, I had, it just, I was, it was just a different, but for them to already have self-confidence and the intelligence to create new systems and to do things differently is quite amazing. So
Yeah.
that's my excitement. So do you want to take Jocelyn's question?
What were the things that didn't work so well in Auroville? And what kind of personal growth do people experience living in such an environment? Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, good question. I will have to like give more background, but how to say, Auroville is also set up in a part of India that the surrounding communities are like, it's like extremely generally extremely poor, and very, very, very different culture, of their own. It's like a culture that thousands of years old. So having like people from like abroad coming there from very different nationalities with an open-ended question, like it's like we know kind of like generally like what we want to do, but like how to get there nobody knows, and which way to go about it nobody knows. So the potential for like conflict and disagreement, or what to prioritize, because it's not all set around education. It's about, there are many, many like goals for the community. So setting priorities is a conflict, cultural misunderstanding, cultural ways of doing things, cultural approaches to conflict. That it basically is like, it's almost like putting like, it's like all of humanity's problems are there, and all of humanity's like great things you'll find there. Like there are people from Africa, from every continent. So it's almost like having the whole planet compressed into a place, kind of like Noah's Ark, and you find the very best and the very worst from every nationality and every country. So what didn't work so well is, and I don't want to go too much into details, but like same as everywhere in the world. Like there are lots of like problems of on all levels, because also people come with different aspirations and particular personal traumas and difficulties.
I wonder,
It,
it just kind of, I also practice some like energy healing. Do they offer, do they have like I would think that I hope, in a intentional community, a rich community of all different people bringing all of their stuff, right? Was there ample kind of healing and
yeah,
ways for people to process and
yeah, there is a huge variety of like treatments and offerings and workshops, and for the majority, like most of it is also free, so you can get as many treatments as you need to kind of like catch up and like with yourself. But yeah, so there is a lot of support. There is the restorative circles, there is a lot of community support, but somehow the energetics there are very intense. Like there is a atmosphere pressure like very strong, because they're trying to do something like very, very, I mean, you see that in many places in the world. Whenever there is a movement or something that is even like a threat to the system, often there are like different ways to sabotage it, and there are other elements that come in factor that try to bring that down. So they are also, by trying to bring something so high, they're also having to face a lot of like negativity from themselves and from the outside towards them. So it's intense, and I will not say like nothing in there doesn't work and nothing works well. Everything is really like in a process. So there are emerging problems. I mean, some problems have been a bit more long standing, but like in general things get eventually worked out. Then there is like another phase of other new emerging problem, like the way food is grown and distributed, or now there are maybe like some corrupt things going on, so how to deal with them, and so on. And it's a very fluid environment. And when it comes to like what kind of personal growth people experience living in such environment, it's immense, because like when you are there, you can participate in the government, you can participate in the healthcare, you can participate in education, you can change job anytime. So you are exposed to, and you are exposed to any aspect of life that normally in most countries most people will never get to be in their congress, and most people are never going to get, they are never even going to be witness to political corruption. It's never going to happen on the same table that they are, that they have a chance to say yes or no, for example. Or So, or most people never get to decide like, oh, what educational system I'm going to want for my village. So by having such a huge freedom, you get to experience a lot more things. You also get to experience conflicts of opinions and disappointments, everything on a very practical level. So it's really like bringing a lot the spirituality into practice. Again, like what Bashar talks about, like it says, if with the whole idea, like you follow your excitement and then things will happen. What will happen if each one of us said, okay, I'm gonna do whatever we are, I'm here in Spain in my village, and for the most part people say like there's nothing I can do, hands off, I'll watch TV. But if we decided, no, I'm really gonna do something to change something in my village, and then you go to the town hall and you start to like propose things and try to get people together and make changes, you will encounter probably some difficulties here and there and some disappointments. So this is kind of like what's happening in Auroville every day, that by acting on your passion, like you experience like great joys, but also you come to see things that are there, but you never, they were kind of like under the table, like the problems of humanity.
I would imagine in such a freedom-based environment, the transparency is, you see everything, and it might be too much. I mean,
Well,
for,
that again, that those are debates. Yes, those are questions. Like, okay, we're running this place. Should we make it like should we make everything? And that there are people who are that are like trying to cheat on you because these guys are like spiritual guys. They will say yes to everything or whatever. So problems arise. There is crime going on. There are many things. So how transparent you want to be? That's a question. Some people will say yes, some people will say no. How you deal with with laws or rules? So it brings a lot of like practical questions uh, that potentially bring disappointments and differences of opinion. But when they finally get resolved, it's a great satisfaction.
awesome. All right. Well, it is just about 10. I think that this is a good place to end. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share? If we want to learn more about you, we can, or,
Yeah, if we want to have like hold more conversations like this, I'm more than happy.
thank you. I appreciate it.
There's always many more topics that we can explore.
Yeah, for sure. And same here. If anyone thinks of something that I might be able to help with, I just see us as collaborative and just learning more, and yeah, just having fun too at the same time. It's always nice to hear what's going on. And I just thought it was so awesome because when I posted that, I wasn't thinking that someone in the group had actually lived there. So that was a pretty cool coincidence. So it shows me that, I'm kind of in that passion equation, I guess, system. So it's fun. And, I wish you more success, and, we'll be watching to see, let us know if you have ideas or really anything you want to share. And that goes for everyone, anything that you think would be helpful for other parents that are also passionate about, seeing their child really as an equal, and wanting to provide them the best atmosphere for them to blossom is where I'm at.
Yeah, same.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. It was nice to meet you. Thank you everyone for joining, and feel free to catch the replay, and have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks. Thank you.